Sing high that note, sannyasin bold, say Om. Tat Sat Om. And never yield, sannyasin bold, say Om. Tat Sat Om. There is but one, the self, the free. Without a name, in him is Maya, dreaming all this dream. He appears as nature and soul. Know you are that, know you are that, sannyasin bold. Sing high that note, sannyasin bold, say Om. Tat Sat Om. Tat Sat Om. And never yield, sannyasin bold, say Om. Tat Sat Om. Tat Sat Om. Strike off your chains, bonds bind you down, of shining gold, a darker, baser ore. This thirst for life forever quench. He drags from birth to death and death to birth. He conquers all who conquer self. Sing high that note, sannyasin bold. Sing high that note, sannyasin bold, say Om. Tat Sat Om. Tat Sat Om. And never yield, sannyasin bold, say Om. Tat Sat Om. Tat Sat Om. Sing high that note, sannyasin bold, say Om. Tat Sat Om. And never yield, sannyasin bold, say Om. Tat Sat Om. Tat Sat Om. Tat Sat Om. Tat Sat Om.
Om Asato Ma Sadagamaya Tamaso Maham Jyotirgamaya Mrityormam Amritam Gamaya Avir Maedhi Rudra Yate Dakshinam Mukha Te Namaham Pahinityam Om. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality, and reach us through and through ourselves, and evermore protect us from ignorance by thy sweet, compassionate face. So my subject this morning is steps to realization. And I take my title from a class talk by Swami Vedarupananda, given in New York City, 1895, as part of a series of classes and lectures on Jnana Yoga. Now, you may have stumbled over that word, Jnana Yoga, J-N-A-N-A. Well, how do you pronounce that? Well, it's very easy. The J in Germanic is K. K-N-O-W. It just means knowledge. It's a cognate word for knowledge. Specifically, jnana means spiritual knowledge. And in our context this morning of talking about Jnana Yoga, we're talking particularly about spiritual self-knowledge. Well, this is the fundamental teaching of the Vedanta philosophy, that you have a nature, that you have a distilled essence, that you have a soul. It's not that you have a soul, but that you are a soul. And the subject of your soul is yourself. And yourself, well, it's what is myself? I just think it's just my consciousness. And yeah, consciousness shows up in two ways. It shows up as our I consciousness, and it shows up as the I of the I. That is the Atman. Another word for, or an analogy that's very common, that's helpful to us when we think about our consciousness, that is ourself, is light. Light is so warm and friendly and illumines everything. That's how we know. The Atman, that means that we are a light source. Another word for the self and for consciousness is the spirit. The spirit is it just means it's a word for consciousness, because consciousness is by nature unlimited. Wherever we go, we can't draw a boundary. Consciousness is infinite. Similarly is with spirit. The spirit has no limit. The spirit is unbounded. It's infinite. And there can't be two infinites, so it's one only without a second. This is the classical definition of our true self in Vedanta. And the goal of Jnana Yoga, specifically, is to know our true self, that is the spirit. And you may say, well, okay, well, how would I know the spirit within me? How would I know my own unlimited pure consciousness that is myself? How could I know it immediately and directly? How could I experience it in my own walking around mind? How could I attain illumination? How could I, what we're asking really is, how could I feel it? And you may think, well, but the spirit doesn't feel, but yeah, the spirit does feel. It thinks, feels. And so we want to feel that openness, that oneness, that sense of freedom and universality. So that's our goal, is self knowledge. How can we do that? Well, that's a question that's been asked the ancient times. In the Vedarupananda Upanishad, the most famous of all the rishis of the Upanishads, his name was Yajnavalkya. And he had a wife, and her name was Maitreyi. And she kind of goes down in history for asking him this question after he had given a discourse on the nature of the soul, the nature of the Atman, the nature of your true self. She asks him the question, "Sir, how can I realize this? How can I know my true self?" And he answers there with the famous words, Shravana, Manana, Nididhasana. And this is the threefold traditional classical definition of Jnana Yoga. And we could define these words as apprehension, comprehension, and application. We could define these words as information, that is in the progression, information, knowledge, and wisdom. Wisdom here does not mean just speaking words of knowledge. Rather, it means applying those words in your everyday life and in realizing them. So let's look at these three stages of Jnana Yoga. That's very simple. First stage, it's called Shravana. Literally, it means hearing. That's because in ancient times, you didn't have any access to knowledge and information except by seeking out some person who could tell you about it. And so by hearing here, we mean hearing the information, reading about it, getting to know and learn and understand that information. And it means this first step is very simple. It just means understand what's being taught by the Vedanta philosophy. Don't criticize it. Don't try to decide whether it's true or false. Just set that aside and just listen and understand what's being said. That's the first step. The second step goes a little bit farther, and that is that you have to think about it. We have to begin to comprehend what's been said. That means you gotta put it into a context. Take that information and put it into into a network of concepts that you have. And behind that network is a background. And it takes some work to integrate your information so it becomes knowledge. That's when it becomes knowledge, when you understand, when you have understanding of the deeper context of what the teaching means. And so that's the second step of Jnana Yoga. This is a lifelong process, as we'll discuss a little later. But the third step is once you have a clear idea in your mind, a clear conviction of the truth, and if you decide it's not true, just set it aside. It's not for you. But once you have a clear conviction of the truth of the teaching, then you have to apply it in your life. Application means is that we have to practice it. We have to integrate it. We have to align, as they say, we have, as it were, two selves, as it were. a lower self and a higher self. And in order for us to realize this teaching, we've got to align the lower with the higher. Align, you know, means you get a bottle of aspirin and you can't open the top. That's because it's child-proof top. You have to look very carefully and see that there's a little red line there on the top. And then you have to align that with the red line on the bottom. And then you can open the medicine. Similarly here, we have to integrate this teaching that we've heard. What teaching? Well, the teaching about the self. You are a divine immortal soul. You are the spirit. We've got to think about it, understand and think about it, and digest it, and assimilate it. That's all part of the whole process. The idea, as we well know, that now there's a disjunction between our spirit and our ego mind. There's a total, disjunction, there's a total alienation, disconnect. We need to close that gap. And that's going to take work and practice. And that's going to require that we take a lot of steps along the path to realization. And all of these steps together constitute what we could call the practice of Jnana Yoga. Now, this practice is traditionally presented in the form of a fourfold list called the four sadhanas, the four practices. They're called the fourfold qualification or the fourfold discipline. That means that there's a list of four qualifications, or we can call them trainings, or virtues that we need to acquire in order to reach our goal, which is what? It's realization. Our goal is self-realization of the knowledge of our true nature. That is, to experience it, to feel it, and to embody it. Now let's just look at those steps. How do you practice Jnana Yoga? Well, first off, we have to begin to practice discrimination. Discrimination between the real and the unreal, between the eternal and the transient. We have to engage our own natural God-given reason and capacity for logical, discriminative thought, particularly with regard to ourselves, with regard to our true nature. We have to discern the difference between the spirit and the flesh, between the real and the apparent man. You know, it's a famous distinction made by Swami Vivekananda. The real and the apparent man. That is the ego mind and the spirit, our lower self and our higher self. We need to discriminate and come to be able to differentiate between those two. Not just semantically, but in our own deeper understanding. What is the difference between the field and the knower of the field? What's the difference between the ego and the self? And this is going to require a lot of introspection and a lot of self-analysis, because we're buried in we're subject to superimposition. That is, we're like the Russian dolls. You've seen those in a curio shop there, of the 5 dolls, that one inside the other. Similarly, it is with our phenomenal selves. We have 5 phenomenal selves, which are coverings for our true self. And so it becomes very confusing. That's why we need to sort ourselves out. Okay, that's step number 1. Step number 2 goes hand in hand with the first, really. Discrimination and dispassion. Dispassion for the world and for all the things in the world. Another word for this dispassion is renunciation. We get a good example there of the spirit of this practice in the Katha Upanishad, where the young boy, isn't he, Nachiketas, he goes from the earth down into the netherworld, into the world of Yama, that is the Lord of Death. And he gets 3 boons from the Lord of Death. And he's asked the first boon, the second boon, the third boon he asks is about his true nature. What is the nature of the spirit, the soul? What is the life after death? And Yama is very reluctant to give him that, or to tell him this, the higher knowledge. That's the lower knowledge and the higher knowledge. And so he tempts the boy with all sorts of the whole range of material pleasures, with all of the name, with name and fame, and with all of the powers and the dominion of the world. It's kind of like Jesus. We know Jesus being tempted by the devil. And the boy, after hearing all these amazing gifts that the Yama is offering, says, no. You keep all these horses and a dance and song for yourself. As for me, I choose to know the truth about myself. So this Nachiketas is an example of renunciation, that is, of dispassion for anything other than the highest truth, that is, our fundamental purpose of life is to be who we really are. So that's our ultimate goal. So that's the second qualification. And yeah, these are very idealistic, we could say. Well, these sound pretty high ideals, but they're very simple, really. They're practices. Remember, now we're talking about practice. Now, we said that there's 4 sadhanas, makes it very simple. There's 4. 1, 2, 3. Now, 3 is actually 6 put together. And we may say, oh, no, wait a minute, what is this? Well, this is a kind of, maybe an old kind of Vedic shorthand accounting. They're grouping 5 virtues, but they're all virtues, together as 6, and they're called the 6 treasures. Now, why are they called treasures? They're called treasures because you don't have to pray to God for them. They're already buried within your psyche. They're already within you. That is, the powers to manifest these virtues is just already within your capacity. If you could just realize it, if you could just manifest it. The first two of these virtues go together. Shama and Dhamma, it's called. It just means restraining the mind and restraining the senses. These are two aspects of self-discipline, of self-control, of that's the first idea. That is that we need to acquire this self-discipline, this self-control. And the analogy given is from the Katha Upanishad in the 3rd chapter, where it gives the famous analogy of the body is like a chariot. And the horses drawing the chariot are like the senses. And the reins are the mind. And the driver of the chariot is the buddhi, that is the intellect. And the rider in the chariot, as we know from the Bhagavad Gita, is Sri Krishna, that is the spirit within us. And this is the analogy. And we can imagine that a chariot being drawn by horses that are out of control and are just running, the reins have fallen down into the dirt. And the driver has lost control. The first thing he needs to do is he needs to lay hold of those reins and he needs to rein in the horses and control the senses, and so restrain the senses and the mind to cause power to return to us. This is the Shama and Dhamma. Now we said there's 6 treasures. The third one is called Uparati. And Uparati also is a high ideal. It just means withdrawing your mind inwards. Withdrawing your mind from the external world. That is to say, our natural inclination is that when we talk about something, when we see something, we talk about what we've seen. We hear something, we talk about what we hear. We eat something, we talk about what we eat, or what we did eat, or what we will eat. These are all external things that occupy our self-talk. And the idea here is that we want to change the direction of our psyche from pravritti to nivritti. That means from cycling outwards and downwards to cycling inwards and upwards. And the idea is that, well, 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita tells us your happiness is within. Your joy is within. The light is within. It's not outside. And therefore, in order to realize the light within, that means your own consciousness, that means your own self. In order to be who you really are and realize yourself, eventually we have to withdraw from external objects and to focus our attention within us and to look for our happiness within us and for the light within us. That's Uparati. Third of these, the fourth one, is called Titiksha. They're going through these lists. Titiksha just means to bear and forbear. It means forbearance. It means inner toughness and fortitude. In face of all the difficulties of spiritual life. And maybe we could just summarize all those difficulties. Just like desire, the opposite is desire. It's the raga and dvesha, desire to all those things that bother us. Take, for example, a mosquito. Now that's a very trifling thing. But if you're sitting in the cave of the Himalayas and there's not a sound within 5 miles, and there's a mosquito buzzing around, then that's a very big deal. So titiksha means what? It means forbearance. Sri Ramakrishna tells about once there was a mosquito. He was flying around in the air. It was so hot and humid. He was exhausted. He just wanted some little place to rest. He landed on the arm of a farmer working in the field. And the farmer just brushed it off. Get away. He couldn't bear to have that mosquito on his arm at all. And the poor little mosquito, he flew around and around. Finally, he saw a bull was standing in the field. And he had a span of his horns, maybe 5 feet. And he was grazing there in the grass. The mosquito went over, landed on the tip of his horn. He said, "Oh, hello, sir, do you mind if I rest here for a moment?" No answer. And so the mosquito climbed down the horn halfway down. He said, "Hello, excuse me, sir, do you mind if I just rest here?" No answer. Then he climbed all the way down, right by his ear. "Hello, Mr. Bull, do you mind if I rest here in your horn?" From the bull looks up. "Oh, I didn't know you were there." "Rest? Oh, of course, no problem. Bring your whole family." That's titiksha. To me, that's got a titiksha means forbearance. That is, he's so big that everything is just a trifle. So we're going through the 6 treasures. 5th treasure is, it's called samadhana. It just means concentration. In order to know anything, you've got to focus and concentrate. Certainly it's true of our own inner self, is to begin to focus our minds. Now the word concentration here, we can look at it in 2 ways. Number 1 is in the practice of Jnana Yoga. Concentration means is you go round and round and you're drawn into a vortex. You're drawn down in deeper. Similarly as in Jnana Yoga, that is in Shravana Manana, Nididhyasana, that is in the hearing and the study, the apprehension, the comprehension, and the practice of this teaching. It goes round in circles. This is called hermeneutic circle. That is, the more that we practice, the more it changes our mind. We have to go back, we have a whole new understanding. We go back and read and hear, we get a whole new idea. Then we have to think about it, and then we have to practice. Like that, it goes round and round. And that's the practice. It's concentration. The second meaning of that term, of course, which we can't help but miss, is about meditation. In order to practice Jnana Yoga, you have to meditate on Brahman. And all of your meditation, that you know, all of our meditation is basically meditation on Brahman. That is, on the higher truths. We have to be quiet and withdraw. I'm talking here about what we usually call Raja Yoga meditation. That is this capacity What this requirement is asking for is the concentration that comes along with this, with the application here of mental concentration. And in focusing our mind on our true nature. So that's the fifth, we call them the 6 treasures here. Let's look at the 6th treasure. 6th treasure, that is the things, these are virtues, which really we could easily develop from within ourselves, excavate from within our own psyche, and that is this virtue, which is called Shraddha. Swamiji translates it as faith in yourself. Now, everyone who is successful in life has faith in themselves. We have faith, assume you have faith in your own powers of perception and of reason and of intuition. And a direct intuition of your own self and your soul and your consciousness, which is the divinity within us. See, consciousness, we say, the analogy for consciousness is light. And light means, the word light means, is deva. Deva means the Indo-European root there is div, which means divinity. That means light. It means that's consciousness. So we understand the divinity within us. It's the shining, the light within us. That's the God within us. You can't have faith in God in heaven unless you have faith in yourself. That is, you have some understanding, your intuition of your own consciousness. And it's this faith in yourself, which is considered to be the 6th treasure of Jnana Yoga. And the practice being practice self-confidence, self-reliance, self-help. No one can help you. No one can save you. God, there's no one in heaven. Swamiji tells us. Swami Vivekananda tells us again and again. That no one in heaven or on earth can save you. That is, can enable you to realize your true nature. The grace of God. We know that the wind of the grace of God is always blowing. The wind of God's grace is always blowing. But you have to raise the sails. You have to use your own muscles to raise up the sails, to catch that wind. God's not going to do that for you. No one can do that for you. That's self-effort. That's why Lord Buddha the teaching of the Lord Buddha, the last teaching, work out your own salvation with diligence. So these are the 6 treasures, talking about them, and all encapsulated in the 3rd qualification. 4th qualification, we know 1, 2, 3, 4 are sadhanas, mumukshutva, means just, we could call it, an intense desire for liberation. This last qualification kind of brings us back to the very beginning. Because there are a lot of people who study this Vedanta philosophy, there are a lot of great scholars and academics who master this philosophy, become great pundits, but they're not practicing Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga begins with intention. You have to intend to want to know your true nature. That's the beginnings of mumukshutva, means an intense desire. That means the idea of this fourth qualification. Get hold of that intention and build on it. Move it up into the level of the hierarchy of your values. Make it first, the ideal is it becomes first priority. That is, to achieve self-knowledge. That is, the intention becomes strong to enable us to achieve our goal. And our goal, the goal here is self-knowledge, self-realization. What is self-realization? Self-realization means applying the knowledge and making it real, feeling it, having a direct, immediate, superconscious perception of your true nature, of the spirit. And knowing, of course, you know, is it Vedanta, there's the lower knowledge and the higher knowledge. So here we're talking about the higher knowledge, by which we mean, we could call realization. Means the lower knowledge, the go moving. It's a shift in your own self-awareness, shift in your self-consciousness. It's a shift in your identity from the lower self to the higher self, from the ego mind to the spirit, from the apparent man to the real man. And the real man, that is the person who has realized this truth, becomes an embodiment of discriminative wisdom. And we can read about that in all of our textbooks of Vedanta. Famous hymn, the Vairagya, or it's called not the Vairagya Shat, could be called Nirvana, Shatakam. It talks about the song. It's called the Song of Nirvana. And you say, well, why are they talking about Nirvana in the Vedanta? Well, it's also in the Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Nirvana. This is our goal. And the song, what's the song? Well, I'm not the body. The refrain, you know this hymn, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I am the Satchidananda. That is, I am pure consciousness, I am the spirit. That's the song. And the sage here is the embodiment of that wisdom. That's the wisdom that we want to achieve and to attain. The self-knowledge, self-realization, it seems like we're distanced from our true self. It's true, but we know also that we have a natural, foundational affirmation of that truth. We have a natural intuition of that truth. It's a properly basic belief of all human beings. And not only that, we have a whole system of metaphysics and philosophy behind it. And we have the embodiments of great incarnations and saints and sages and exemplars who have realized this higher truth, who realized their true nature. And we have the path to self-knowledge laid out before us. That is the path of Jnana Yoga. And so now all that remains is for us to begin to take the steps to realization.
Yeah, this song is called Prayer to Mother, song to Holy Mother, and it's a few quotes of mothers in the song. Mother, this life's full of stress. My mind's a storm, but still I try my best to look inside for peace. Mother, I try to be kind, but sometimes darkness clouds my mind. You said love's the cure, so I'm holding on. Oh, Holy Mother, I'm calling out. Help me through all this fear and doubt. Your words of love, yeah, they can set us free. Mother, you've been guiding us for eternity. Mother, please light my way. Even when I stumble, be the first to say, no one is a stranger, my child. The remedy for all is love, she said. It turns despair to joy instead. Through your words, the heart is freed. Oh, Holy Mother, I'm calling out. Help me through all this fear and doubt. Your words of love, yeah, they can set us free. Mother, you've been guiding us for eternity. Mother, this life's full of stress. My mind's a storm, but still I try my best to look inside for peace. Mother, I try to be kind, but sometimes darkness clouds my mind. You said love's the cure, so I'm holding on by a thread. Oh, Holy Mother, I'm calling out. Help me through all this fear and doubt. Your words of love, yeah, they can set us free. Mother, you've been guiding us for eternity. Oh, Holy Mother, I'm calling out. Help me through all this fear and doubt. Your words of love, yeah, they can set us free. Mother, you've been guiding us for eternity.
Thanks to Paul Golowitz, who is visiting us from Portland, Oregon, for his musical offerings today. And thanks, of course, to Swami Vedarupananda for his beautifully clear and straightforward explication, and rumination on the path of Jnana Yoga. The Swami stays at Swami Vivekananda House, where Swami Vivekananda himself lived for 4 weeks in 1900. And that's a place of pilgrimage. You can schedule a visit, or once a month, Swami Sarvadevananda holds a little retreat at the Vivekananda House. That's in South Pasadena. If this is your first time here, welcome. We do this every week. There's refreshments outside. We have a bookshop. After the talk, the Swami will go to after you get some refreshments, he'll be in the living room next to the bookshop for some discussion. If you have some questions or as he says, objections, you can meet him there. Next week, our speaker will be Swami Sarvadevananda, and his topic is 3 Enemies of Spiritual Life. 3 events coming up. This coming Saturday, August 9th, we have Krishna Puja in San Diego. It's a beautiful service. It is a trek, but it's worth it if you love Krishna. And then we have on the 16th, the following Saturday in the evening, Swami Nirvanananda Saraswati, the Italian Swami who plays guitar and harmonium and leads kirtan. Is a beautiful musician. He'll be leading kirtan here on Saturday the 16th at 7:30 p.m. And please join us for an uplifting evening of singing together with the Swami. And then we're expecting an important visitor from India, Swami Bodhasarananda, one of the assistant general secretaries of our order at Belur Mutt. He is actually sort of supervising all the work of the order that goes on outside India. So we definitely are looking forward to his visit. And he'll be speaking here on the 24th, so the following Sunday. Thank you for coming.
Shantihi, Oshadaya, Shantihi, Vanaspataya, Shantihi, Vishwehi Deva, Shantihi, Brahma Shantihi, Sarava Shantihi, Shantireva Shantihi, Sa Me Shantiredhi, Om Shantihi, Shantihi, Shantihi. Om, peace is in heaven, peace is on the earth, peace is in the sky and in the waters. The herbs and plants and trees are full of peace. The gods are peaceful. May this eternal universal peace enter our souls and beings. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us all. So join us in the green room.